What Trump is doing isn't political. It's common sense. This isn't a Republican policy or Democratic policy. It's conservative or liberal. This is common sense. Like, stop paying dead people. Stop letting contracts go on in perpetuity. The DOGE team uncovered $59 million to luxury hotels in New York to house illegals. They were sending money appropriated for disasters. People in North Carolina, people in LA, people in Georgia, to house illegals in luxury hotels. This is what's happening. All right, guys, good day to you from a very, very snowy Washington, D.C. area. This is the first time that I don't know that actually, we don't get snow that often when we even get a hint of it. And I'm not kidding when I say a hint of it. Like if the weather report says it's going to snow, everything shuts down. Everything. It's a long story, but they can't handle snow. We have legit snow. Like I'm a New Englander, guys. Remember, this is legit 5+ inches. Okay. And they didn't close the government. You might say, so what, Sean? This shows you the difference. This is what we're going to talk about today because it's just unbelievable, the mindset change. And the fact that Democrats, where their heads at right now is pathetic, sad. It really is. What we're going to talk about today, you will see nowhere else. If you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, send the link right now to 5 people. Just say you're going to want to see this because I'm going to tell you some stuff. And then I'm going to bring in Congressman Ben Cline of Virginia. He's a Freedom Caucus member. He's a lawyer. He's a member of the Appropriations Committee, the Budget Committee, and the Judiciary Committee. Like if you said to Chat GPT, give me the perfect guest for Sean to talk to today about what's going on, he'd say Congressman Ben Cline of Virginia. This guy is going to give us a status report on where things are. Yesterday, though, was just epic. And I'm going to go through a bunch of this with you because for all the talk about what's being exposed, pick up the paper. If you still do that or go on the internet, the media is ignoring what's actually happening and focusing on like, well, Elon wore a hat. His little son was there. Adorable. Yeah. But they don't actually want you to see what's coming out because they're part of the problem. The sides were drawn. Yesterday, it was Elon Musk and Donald Trump versus a bunch of nuts who oppose common sense. And the funniest part of the day, initially at least, was Elon changed his name on Twitter and the media freaked out. Take a look.
The disruptor-in-chief, Elon Musk, who apparently has adopted the alias, at least he changed his social media handle to Harry Balls, tweeted this morning, democracy in America is being destroyed by judicial coup. An activist judge is not a real judge.
Elon, of course, said he said I made them say my name. I don't agree with every tactic, but that's funny. I'm sorry. Maybe it's just been a long day, but I thought that was hysterical. All right. I want to get through a couple housekeeping issues and then really get into this epic Oval Office exchange with the media yesterday. Prime Minister Modi of India is in D.C. today. Okay. India is known for having extremely high tariffs, like very high tariffs. When I was doing trade work, like they were among the most difficult to deal with, very protectionist. Apparently, Prime Minister Modi is going to come hat in hand to President Trump and immediately start to offer some concessions on tariffs because they know they're coming. Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, their votes were today. We are moving forward, baby. Big deal, big deal. Later tonight, I'm actually going to go out and celebrate, hopefully with a bunch of the Maha folks. I'll have some stuff on that for you tomorrow. But I want to show you what happened yesterday. It is such a monumental shift in thinking about how the government works. President Trump was in the Oval Office. Elon comes in and he starts talking about the headwinds that he's facing from some of these judges that are putting stays on his orders that Democrats are going after. Let me show you what he had to say on this.
For the sake of the country, I hope that the person that's in charge and the other people that report to me that are in charge are allowed to do the right thing, namely make sure everything's honest, legitimate, and competent. But we're looking at just, when you look at USAID, that's one. We're going to look at the military. We're going to look at education. They're much bigger areas. But the USAID is really corrupt. I'll tell you, it's corrupt. It's incompetent, and it's really corrupt. And I can't imagine a judge saying, well, it may be corrupt, but you don't have the right. You got elected to look over the country and to, as we say, make America great again, but you don't have the right to go and look and see whether or not things are right that they're paying or that things are honest that they're paying. And nobody can even believe this. Other people, law professors, they've been saying, how can you take that person's right away? You're supposed to be running the country, but we're not allowed to look at who they're paying it to and what they're paying. We have massive amounts of fraud that we caught. I think we probably caught way over a lot of billions of dollars already in, 2 weeks?
Yes.
And it's going to go to numbers that you're not going to believe. And much, as I said, much is incompetence and much is dishonesty. We have to catch it. And the only way we're going to catch it is to look for it. And if a judge is going to say you're not allowed to look for it, that's pretty sad for our country. I don't understand how it could even work.
So let me just get to this. We elect a president of the United States in a democracy. He's the head of the executive branch. And the judge is saying that the president or his representatives can't look at the books. I mean, seriously, just stop for a second. Imagine how just a private sector CEO. Yeah, you run the company, but we're not going to let you see our payroll. We're not going to let you see our contracts. You're telling me that the president of the United States is supposed to run the country, but he can't look at, like in the case of Treasury, where their contracts are. This is crazy. Elon actually went on about this, and I think really boiled it down to what this is all about. Let me show you how Elon described this.
If there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the bureaucrat, if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the president, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large unelected bureaucracy. This is not to say that there are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that is responsive to the people. That's the whole point of a democracy. And if you looked at this, if you asked the founders today and said, what do you think of the way things have turned out? Well, we have this unelected, fourth unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative. And this is not something that people want, and it does not match the will of the people. So it's just something we've got to fix. And then we've also got to address the deficit. So we've got a $2 trillion deficit, and if we don't do something about this deficit, the country's going bankrupt. I mean, it's really astounding that the interest payments alone on the national debt exceed the Defense Department budget, which is shocking because we spend a lot of money on defense. But if that just keeps going, we're essentially going to bankrupt the country. So what I really want to say is, like, it's not optional for us to reduce the federal expenses. It's essential. It's essential for America to remain solvent as a country, and it's essential for America to have the resources necessary to provide things to its citizens and not simply be servicing vast amounts of debt.
So let me just bottom line this. I'll take it a step further. We're $36 trillion in debt. 36 trillion. We run a $2 trillion a year deficit. As Elon said, our interest payments on the debt exceed what we spend on our defense as a nation, which is almost $1 trillion. And the bureaucracy is like, no. You can't look at what we do. We're not going to tell you where contracts go, how much money we're spending on DEI, this, and potentially dead people getting payments or all that. I mean, what this is insane that the bureaucracy is basically telling the elected president of the United States, no, you don't have a right to look at our books. That's ours. You work for him. You work for us. It just also exposes how nuts this whole thing is. I cannot believe In 30 years, I've never seen so much exposed as we have in the last 3 weeks. I'm actually just blown away by how rampant this is. I knew there was waste, fraud, and abuse. We all do. But the brazenness by which these guys blew our money, I mean, seriously, what is it? What did I say the other day? What is a $70,000 for a DEI musical in Ireland? Like, suddenly the Irish people are like, you know what? We like you guys because of that DEI music. You know what, China? You don't come to Dublin anymore. Who thought, like, that to me is just disgusting. That you can waste taxpayer money like that. And if Elon hadn't exposed it, nobody would. It would have kept going. It's just, you would have like Riverdance, DEI version. So President Trump is talking about how we need to address this, contracts and everything else. And again, just exposing what's going on, how bad the bureaucracy is, how bad it is. Take a look at him talking about how the system works.
If you have a contract and you're in a regular business, you end the contract in 3 months. You know it's a consultant. Here's a contract for 3 months, but it goes on for 20 years. And the guy doesn't say that he got money for 20 years. You know, they don't say it. They just keep getting checks month after month. And you have various things like that, and even much worse than that, actually, much worse. And I guess you call that incompetence, maybe. Yeah. It could be corruption. It could be a deal's made on both sides, you know, where the guy gets the money, he kicks. I think there's a lot of kickback here. I see a lot of kickback here.
There's a lot of kickbacks.
Tremendous kickback, because nobody could be so stupid to give out some of these contracts. So he has to get a kickback. So that's what I got elected for, that and borders and military and a lot of things, but this is a big part of it. And I hope that the court system is going to allow us to do what we have to do. We got elected to among other things, find all of this fraud, abuse, all of this horrible stuff going on. And we've already found billions of dollars, not like a little bit, billions, many billions of dollars. And when you get down to it, it's going to be probably close to $1 trillion. It could be close to $1 trillion that we're going to find. That will have quite an impact on the budget.
You know, a lot of times the left says, oh, you can't bring the private sector in, it's government, it's run differently. That's common sense. This has nothing to do with government versus private sector. The idea that you award someone a contract and then it just goes on in perpetuity, no, that's just dumb. What Trump is doing isn't political. It's common sense. This isn't a Republican policy or Democratic policy. It's conservative or liberal. This is common sense. Like, stop paying dead people. Stop letting contracts go on in perpetuity. Organize your system as a business would so that you actually know what categories spending is going out the door in. So maybe you don't pay terrorists or people on watch lists, or know that you're double paying them. This shouldn't be political. This is a breath of fresh air. And by the way, Congressman Ben Cline, again, lawyer, Freedom Caucus member, appropriator, budget committee member, coming up in just a minute. I'm going to ask him all this kind of stuff because I want to know where we are. But speaking of getting your house in order, if you're the guy or woman who runs a business, 5 employees, 5,000 employees, and you want to do the same to your business to add some efficiencies in it, to streamline things, then I got news for you. Get one of these. This is a Ramp card. It's just like a normal Visa card, except from Ramp, the system that they put in place for you. The moment that you make a purchase, Ramp takes care of matching the receipt up, categorization, approvals. Man, we need Ramp in the federal government. That's what we need. This is exactly what Elon's talking about. This seamlessly integrates with your ERP for real-time visibility. You know who's spending what. You can set limits. It categorizes everything real time. It saves your finance team time and money. They can shift their focus to forecasting and growth strategies instead of chasing everyone around and be like, hey, Ron, did you have the receipt from lunch? Where's the new, it does it all seamlessly for you. Over 25,000 businesses, including Shopify and Boys and Girls Club of America, use Ramp because it's rated #1 by Spend Management by G2. It literally will save your company so much time and effort and make you more efficient. And for a limited time only, listeners of the show can get $250 when they join Ramp. I did. I joined Ramp. Just so we're clear, I always tell you guys this. I use the products that we talk about on this show. 100%. I joined Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/Spicer to get your $250. Whether you got 5 employees or 5,000, ramp.com/Spicer. Cards are issued by Sutton Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply. Speaking of products that I love, by the way, I have 3 pairs of gravity defyer shoes. Ones that I play some pickleball in because they're a little whiter, just to be honest, so it looks like I'm fancy. Then I've got ones I work out in and ones that I go running in. I just fell in love with them, so I kind of got one for each. Obviously, you don't have to be as addicted as I am, but I'm telling you, if you've got back, knee, hip, I think I've got all 3. Actually, I was talking to the doctor yesterday about the hip issues. Gravity defyer shoes are a total game changer. They're not your average shoe. They're FTC approved to relieve pain. So this isn't just some marketing gimmick. Whether you're walking or running, working out, just standing on your feet for long hours, if you're like in retail or you've got a job where you're doing a lot of walking, they've got this patented VersoShock technology, which is kind of like what trampolines use. So it helps align your body and absorb harmful shocks. I'm telling you, once you put these things on, you'll never go back. That's why I have 3 pairs. And I give them out as gifts, by the way, because it's perfect if you've got that person, but it's you walk around in a way that no other sneaker or shoe will ever match. Here's the best part. Listeners to the Sean Spicer Show can get an exclusive 50% off orders of $120 or more right now. Just text Sean, SEAN, to 91888 and claim your deal. That's half off the regular shoes that will literally transform your life. And with Gravity Defyer's 60-day free trial, you literally have nothing to lose. Stand tall, walk strong, and feel your best with a pair of Gravity Defyer shoes. Text Sean, SEAN, to 91888 or visit gdefy.com and take a step towards a better life. All right, let me get back to this whole spending thing. Speaking of Ramp and feeling better. The DOGE team uncovered, and remember this was a big story, $59 million to luxury hotels in New York to house illegals. So you remember the whole story when North Carolina got ravaged with a hurricane and people were talking about FEMA misappropriating funds and they said they chastised them. That's not true. You have no evidence. Well, now they do, to the tune of $59 million. Elon tweeted this out, and people are getting fired, thankfully, for this. They were sending money appropriated for disasters. People in North Carolina, people in LA, people in Georgia, not to mention like Florida, where they get hit all the time, to house illegals in luxury hotels. This is what's happening. And by the way, the reporters, you know what they focused on? Oh, we got you, Elon. They got you. Now, this is a little bit adulty, but I want to show you a clip of what they went after him yesterday in the Oval Office.
And this is big numbers. Talking about $100 to $200 billion a year.
Sure.
Serious money.
Mr. Musk, you said on X that an example of the fraud that you have cited was $50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza. But after fact-check this, it apparently Gaza in Mozambique, and the program was to protect them against HIV. So can you correct the statements? It wasn't sent to Hamas, actually. It was sent to Mozambique, which makes sense why condoms was sent there.
Yeah.
And how can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes. I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about. And that is really an enormous number of condoms, if you think about it. If it went to Mozambique instead of Gaza, I'm like, okay, that's not as bad, but still, why are we doing that?
We're spending $50 million sending condoms anywhere. And they're like, we gotcha. We gotcha, Elon. They actually went somewhere else, not to Gaza. Okay, that makes it better. I mean, what? This is what the press focuses on. We're saving billions of dollars. You know what my question would be like, Mr. Musk, have you figured out who did this? Who's the person that spent $50 million of our tax dollars on this? Because we'd like to talk to them. We'd like to hold them accountable. They don't want to talk about the process, what's actually happening. They want to be like, Mr. Musk, you were wrong about this little thing. Grow up, you morons. This is the problem. This is the mentality in Washington. We're going to go get Elon. Elon deserves a ticker tape parade, for goodness sake. Saving us this much money, exposing this much waste and inefficiencies. We should be thanking the guy. And this is how the media focuses on it. It's unbelievable. By the way, you want to know what else he highlighted yesterday? Sit down. This is going to blow your mind. So only 10,000 government officials can retire a day. That's odd. Why? Elon, explain why.
You know, one of the things is like we are trying to sort of right-size the federal bureaucracy, just make sure that this, obviously there need to be a lot of people working for the federal government, but not as many as currently. So we're saying, well, okay, well, let's, if people can retire, you know, with full benefits and everything, that would be good. They can retire, get their retirement payments, everything. And then we were told, this is actually, I think, a great anecdote, because we were told no, the most number of people that could retire possibly in a month is 10,000. We're like, well, why is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual on paper. It's manually calculated, then written down on a piece of paper. Then it goes down a mine. And I'm like, what do you mean a mine? Like, yeah, there's a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. And you look at a picture of this mine. We'll post some pictures afterwards. And this mine looks like something out of the 50s because it was started in 1955. So it looks like it's like a time warp. And then the speed, then the limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move determines how many people can retire from the federal government. And the elevator breaks down sometimes, and then nobody can retire. Doesn't that sound crazy? There's like 1,000 people that work on this. So I think if we take those people and say, like, you know what, instead of working in a mine shaft and carrying manila envelopes to, you know, boxes in a mine shaft, you could do practically anything else, and you would add to the goods and services of the United States in a more useful way.
Yeah, that is crazy. Mine shafts. We send a manila envelope down a mine shaft to get stored as paper. It's scary that that's happening that way. By the way, one of the Obama bros basically said, I want to just read this to you. John Lovett, he's one of the hosts of Pod Save America. He said, some of this is pretty annoying because it's some of the stuff we should have done. Yeah, dum-dum. You should have, and you didn't, and now we're exposing it. Ben Cline, Congressman from Virginia, coming up, who will explain a lot of where things stand right now. Before I get to that, I've told you this before, guys. Not only do I have a fire extinguisher, which most of you have, I've got a first aid kit, and then I've got a life vac. It looks just like this. It makes anybody a hero in the event of a choking incident. They don't have to know the Heimlich maneuver or anything else. They just put it over someone's face, push it in, pull it out. Anybody can be a hero during a choking incident. And in fact, somebody on this show bought one, and the company called me to say that a life was saved because of it. So it kind of warms my heart that a product that someone on the show bought, that trusted us to promote, used it, and someone is living because of that. So there's a reason police, fire, restaurants, cruise lines, everywhere has life vacs now, schools, because it empowers anybody to do a very simple thing with a life vac to remove an object if it's creating a choking incident. So don't wait another minute. Literally, a life can depend on whether or not you have a life vac in your house. Get your very own life vac at lifevac.net, lifevac.net. Don't wait another minute because a life truly could be waiting to be saved because of that. All right, I want to introduce Congressman Ben Cline. He represents Virginia's 6th District. He's on the Appropriations Committee, the Budget Committee, the Freedom Caucus. He's a lawyer. He knows it all. What a perfect guest for today. Congressman Cline, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Glad to be with you.
I mean, honestly, there's days when you get the perfect guest. You remember the Freedom Caucus, you remember the Budget Committee, you remember the Appropriations Committee, you remember the Judiciary Committee. I feel like we should go Joe Rogan in 4 hours long, but I don't think that your staff would excite. So let's just start with, there's a hearing today. The DOGE subcommittee is meeting. Where does Congress see itself? And by the way, you're a lawyer, so this is great because we can talk about the Constitution. Where does Congress fit in this, right? The Article 2 versus Article 1 in terms of your oversight on federal spending, because just to tee it up a little, I think Democrats are saying, well, Congress has the right to, the power of the purse and the right to spend money and to cancel programs, and the president can't just go ahead and do that. So from your perch, where do you see this?
Well, we do have a responsibility as a co-equal branch of government to make sure the taxpayer dollars are spent appropriately and efficiently and wisely. And so what the president is doing is helping us a great deal by uncovering waste, fraud, and abuse. You know, we've been working in our oversight capacity to try and get this information from these government agencies, but under Democrat control, these agencies wouldn't talk at all with Congress about where the money was going. So for Donald Trump and Elon Musk to be uncovering this waste and sharing it with the world, it makes our job a lot easier, but it makes us more effective as a co-equal branch of government to make sure that taxpayers' money is spent wisely.
So the process works, right? There's a budget, and then the appropriators, which you're on that committee, dole it out to the agencies. So when I see stuff that the president and Elon are exposing, right? $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia. Is that, just explain how that happens? In other words, is there some member of Congress that says, I want to fund a comic book, a transgender comic book? Or is that the agency saying that they're awarding that with the money that you guys sent, and then to your point, not letting you guys see what they did with the money?
Exactly. It's the latter. What's happened is Congress has given away its authority to the executive branch, to all the agencies, to craft not only the rules and regulations dealing with the administration of programs, and Chevron was supporting that, and the Supreme Court just reversed Chevron so that now the agencies have to look to the letter of the law, restoring a lot of congressional authority. But we gave them grant authority. So we give them big tranches of money, and then they get to decide who gets it. So under Democrat administrations, what you get are these ridiculous, liberal, woke programs that get funded by your tax dollars, and they try and hide it and keep it from the eyes of the public, from Congress, and in our oversight capacity. So what we need to do is take back that authority for not only grant writing, but also for the laws that we pass, to make sure that it's the people and the representatives in Congress who are writing the laws, not a bureaucrat in the Department of Education somewhere downtown Washington.
So just walk me through this from a legal standpoint and a member of Congress standpoint. The way that you're explaining this, right? So you're saying, hey, we gave them, under previous administration, they got grant writing authority. So we gave them a pool of money. Then they sent it out. They used it clearly for these nefarious reasons. And then they didn't tell us what was going on. The Democrats say, well, Congress gets the power of the purse. But the way that you're explaining this to me, if you guys gave that to them in the first place, then Donald Trump and DOGE are full in their right and responsibility to say, well, Congress told us to write these laws. The Biden administration gave it all away to woke programs. We're stopping that. That at least currently sounds consistently legal, that they can stop it because you guys never said give to a DEI program, don't give to a DEI program. You gave them a pool of money to hopefully advance the cause. We've seen how they abused it. But just from a separation of powers perspective, do you think that DOGE and Donald Trump have the authority right now they need to stop this spending that we're seeing in USAID and other programs?
Absolutely. If you give the Department of Education or USAID or some other department the decision-making ability to spend taxpayer money, spend it on this program, don't spend it on this program, start spending it on this program, stop spending it on this program, then another part of the federal executive branch can come in and say, hey, wait, we're auditing, we're monitoring, we're determining whether this was an appropriate use of taxpayer funds. You've certainly shown us it's not, so you need to stop, because under our responsibilities as an executive branch agency, this is what they should be saying, you're abusing the power that was given to you by Congress. So it's entirely legal, constitutional, and responsible, finally, for the executive branch to be saying, let's take a closer look at these grants, and some of them don't need to be spent. So it's going well.
There's a lot of federal workers in Northern Virginia where I live, but your district is a little bit more west and south, and I'd probably rather live in your district than the one I live in now.
Beautiful district.
It is a beautiful district. But do you have a lot of federal workers there?
No, there are some who are working remotely And those folks have been called back in. So it's shifting, but not very many federal workers are in the Shenandoah Valley because it's about a 90-minute drive. Unless you're during rush hour, it's 2-hour drive.
I was going to say then it's like a 4-hour drive.
Yeah.
So what is the feedback that you're getting right now as a member of Congress? Are people calling you saying, hey, go Donald Trump, go, or are they expressing concern, or is it mixed?
Well, it's very mixed. You have a lot of people who are very supportive of what is happening. This is what they voted for in November. This is what they wanted to see was an auditing, so to speak, of federal wasteful spending. And Donald Trump has gotten down to business and is working hard to make that happen. And Elon Musk is helping. And, you hear from people who are concerned that they want to make sure that all laws are followed regarding the protection of privacy rights, protection of private data. That is being followed by this administration. They are adhering to the letter of the law to make sure that they are protecting the privacy rights of American citizens. Your private information is not being unleashed onto the dark web for financial fraud purposes. It's being protected under current laws. Those laws have been on the books for quite some time. So they are working hard, and the American people are glad to see it happening.
You posted on Twitter, for whatever reason, I'm sure that you got a lot of constituent mail about Elon Musk. You wrote a letter back to constituents and then posted it on Twitter, making the case that it's about time. Explain what you did and why you did it.
Well, we correspond with constituents who are concerned about a variety of things. And so for those who were concerned about Musk, not only did I want to reassure them that he was hired legally, that he is, in fact, being hired as a government employee, and that DOGE is, in fact, a legal division of the federal government. It is a renamed department that was established under Obamacare, under Obama's administration, to deal with the website affecting Obamacare. But he has taken that, renamed it the DOGE department, and actually put it to work. And so what I wanted to do was to not only explain to the folks who were corresponding from my district about these issues, but actually defend the work that is going on in the executive branch. Trump has really been confronted by the bureaucratic state. They are rising up against him. And in all of these congressional committees, the defenders of the bureaucracy, Maxine Waters, Jamie Raskin, Hakeem Jeffries, they are all out there really, really upset that that their bureaucratic colleagues, allies in the federal government are being told to either get back to work in person or stop sitting on your couch in your pajamas, or actually that they aren't going to be coming to work anymore, because quite frankly, we shouldn't be hiring one more federal employee than is absolutely necessary to run this federal government efficiently and effectively. We owe it to the taxpayers to save every dollar we can. And that's what Donald Trump is doing. And that's what I put in that letter. That's what I'm about as their representative. And I'm excited to work hand in glove with this administration to defend American taxpayers and get the job done.
What's the mood like among your colleagues? Because I have been saying for a while, like, we've had the Grace Commission during the Reagan years. We had Simpson Bowles. We've had other congressional initiatives to cut spending and waste. What I've seen in the last 7 to 10 days disgusts me. And I think you get that as somebody who's been like a champion of fiscal responsibility. Like, I assume you feel the same way, but just the idea that we didn't even know this. It's one thing to oppose certain policies of the other party, but the idea that the level of disrespect that people had with our tax dollars to fund some of this stuff, just to me is what's worth so much of this now, because exposing how we send federal records down to a mine shaft, through a mine shaft to a limestone mine, the programs that I just enumerated and so many more, the workers that are still getting paid that are dead. It's like the idea that if it wasn't for them, it would just keep going on.
Yeah, it's confirming everything we knew to be true about the federal bureaucracy, but we just didn't have the receipts. And what Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing is giving us the receipts to go back to the American people and say, it's as you thought, and it's
worse.
confirming our worst fears, is that your tax dollars are being abused. We need to return power to the states, to the localities, to the people, provide, yes, tax relief, extend the Trump tax cuts so people can keep more of what they earn, but also work to bring down prices and stop wasting tax dollars and spending, contributing to the inflation that's been hurting American families for so many years, and stop the wasteful spending. And we're getting to work. And I think all of the work that's being done in the executive branch is actually helping us to convince our reticent colleagues, because there are a lot of people with a Republican by their name, but especially in the Senate, they're not anxious to go cut the wasteful spending because it interferes with some of the friends they've made in Washington. They need to stop worrying about their dinner parties and get to the work of the American people.
Yeah, what I love about this is for so long, it's been speech after speech, tweet after tweet. We need to do something about the problem. And then to your point, it's, well, I got to go to the dinner party and with all my buddies at PBS or NPR, and I don't want them to not like me. So I'm going to, I'm going to support that because that's important to some liberal buddies that I go to dinner parties with, or I want to get invited to their party. And I'm glad to see us finally saying this. I hope that we not only expose the waste, but some of these Republicans that talk the talk and don't walk the walk. But you mentioned your Democratic colleagues, Jamie Raskin, one, Maxine Waters. I got to be honest with you. I'm kind of like, I feel bad for their response. Like they stand outside of buildings, flail their arms. Chuck Schumer's running around with a Corona beer. Like, I'm like, wow, is this the best you got? Like, it's actually, honestly, I think it's sad. It's like, I thought that they might have a better response, and it's just pathetic.
It is surprising to see in a hearing like we have right now in Judiciary Committee, when we're going over the victories for free speech over the last few months of the the first few months of the Trump administration, how far we've come in the last 4 years, when Twitter, Facebook, Meta, everybody was under attack from the Biden administration for putting out information about COVID. RFK Jr., who was a witness at one of our hearings in Judiciary Committee, is now about to be Secretary of Health and Human Services. Yeah. And we had Jamie Raskin actually agreeing with the idea of free speech and how supportive of free speech he is, and how we're so glad to move beyond this terrible time. Well, he was working with the administration to contribute to this censorship regime that was underway in the Biden administration. But it's funny just to watch how they flipped, and now they're applauding us as we're actually defending free speech and working for the taxpayers.
Yeah, so you got this judiciary hearing on big tech. All these guys in big tech, exactly as you described, suddenly are, I didn't mean to do this, but we suppressed your free speech, but we're on your team now. I got to be honest with you. I don't believe any of them. I think that they just know that Congress and Donald Trump was probably going to regulate them more, or get rid of Section 230, or a variety of things. And their answer was, we'll just pretend that we're your friends now. We'll throw some money at Trump's inauguration. You guys are continuing to expose this in the Judiciary Committee. Do you believe these big tech companies when they say that they suddenly are our buddies and support free speech? Or do you think that they're just using us and they'll go back to their left-wing woke ways as soon as they can?
Well, it's all about the money for them. Those who are in private businesses, these tech titans are just, they're about making a profit. And when they see the winds blowing in favor of free speech, in favor of the rights of American citizens, their constitutional rights, then they want to be on board with that, because they know it's going to end up boosting their profits. So they'll work with this administration because it's going to help them in the end. But we want to lock them in to these policies, to these comments, defending free speech, making sure that they are protecting the rights of Americans to express their views, and are not going to agree with a future Democrat administration that wants to censor the American people, that wants to force.
Oh, and they do.
Businesses.
They do. I mean, that's the thing. They left to their ways. And I see what I loved about what you just said, Congressman, is we know we have 2 years. And there's so much you can do through executive order, executive action, et cetera. But if you guys don't codify it in law, whether it's immigration or some of the free speech that you just said, the tax cuts, energy, border, then we have a problem because they'll just undo it if they get back in. And so I think that, like, I love the fact that you're talking about codifying it in law to make sure that they can't undo it.
Absolutely. And whether it's, USAID, CFPB, all of these agencies, the Department of Education, which I hope Donald Trump wants to repeal and end, but he's going to do as much as he can through executive orders, return power to the states and to the people to decide for them how to educate their children. But we need to lock those into law, and it's going to take some stiffened spines, especially in the Senate, where you have some weak-kneed Republicans who aren't going to want to go through the revolutionary changes that the people demanded last November.
You are on the Freedom Caucus, as I mentioned. You're a appropriator. The big talk, at least in Washington, is 2 bills or 1. Where do you guys? Is there a Freedom Caucus consensus on this matter?
So the Freedom Caucus supports a 2-bill strategy, the idea being we need to move as quickly as possible to implement the Trump agenda. So the first bill would be focused on the border, focused on restoring energy independence, and then we could move on to extending the Trump tax cuts and some more cuts. My concern is that those cuts will never come. And so I'm open to the idea of a single bill. In fact, the Budget Committee has noticed a markup for tomorrow to actually mark up a single budget bill to lock in those tax cuts, to lock in those spending cuts, to move us further down the path and implement the Trump agenda as quickly as possible, spend $300 billion toward the border, towards energy independence, toward securing our national defense. And so the House is going to move quickly with a single bill tomorrow. The Senate is moving on a 2-bill strategy. We all want the same thing. We're going to work together to get there, whether it's 1 bill or 2.
I get it. And I'm with you. Like, I just want the end result. I really don't care if you have 50 bills versus 1 or 2. But I guess the question is, at some point, this comes to a head. Lindsey Graham, the Senate Budget Committee chairman, as you said, is moving ahead with his 2-bill strategy. He's marking up his. And so where does this, because it seems Speaker Johnson wants 1, but at some point this comes to a head. And I guess that there's a numbers issue in the House, right? Which is, if enough of the House members don't support a single bill strategy, then it doesn't pass. And so I guess my question is, how does this play out? Like, because we're all in agreement. We just want the end result, but it's like saying, I just want to get to, Colorado. There's various routes to get there. And you might think, I want to take more interstate. I might want to take a more scenic route. And you'd say, well, it doesn't really matter, but it kind of does.
It does. And more importantly than a 1 bill versus 2 bill strategy is the idea of current policy versus current law. And what the Senate has done with their bill is simply said, we're going to extend current policy. It doesn't cost taxpayers a dime to extend the tax cuts another 10 years. And we're not going to include a lot of cuts to, quote, pay for these tax cuts. Whereas what the Congressional Budget Office is saying and what the House is going to budget to is the idea of current policy, which says tax cuts are ending. If you want to extend them another 10 years, you have to pay for them by cutting spending. And so we're going to demand tax cuts, but spending cuts to help offset those tax cuts. And that's going to help shrink the size of the federal government. This is a more conservative budget. It's a more conservative budget than the Senate.
Just so I didn't mean to interrupt you, Congressman, but I didn't realize. So is the 1 bill actually cuts more of government? Is that what you're?
Yes, the House bill will cut more.
Then you made me just switch my position. I'm now a 1 bill guy. Because to me, the problem with some conservatives is they say, oh, we'll just grow our way out of the deficit. Maybe that's true, maybe not. I don't know. But here's the problem, is that it leaves, as Kamala Harris would call it, the root causes. We still have a big, bloated, inefficient government. And if we don't actually focus on the cuts, we don't get the benefit of that regardless. So I don't, the deficit to me, whether we grow out of it or not, is sort of tangential to the fact that if we don't address spending, it's going to come back to bite us in the future.
And now that we have just grown this deficit to nearly $2 trillion a year, we can't grow our way out of it. We have to actually cut spending.
Yes.
And the trillions in spending from the Biden administration have made it that much worse. And now the interest on the debt has overtaken our Defense Department as the largest area of spending in the federal government outside of entitlement programs. But we have got to control spending, and the House budget will take those steps, whereas the Senate budget kicks the can.
You know, you've got a business background aside from you worked in sales and marketing for a rural internet company. And I'm thinking to myself as I think through this, like Biden was spending a ton of money to send broadband to rural areas. You've got a ton of experience in this. It didn't connect with a single person, billions of dollars, whereas something like a Starlink could. I mean, how are like policies like that in your business experience playing into the development of budget and ideas like this?
Well, you need to go where the public wants to go. The public wants rural internet, but the costs are prohibitive of providing that last mile of fiber to the home when you're out in the middle of nowhere, and it takes hundreds of miles to get to you. Whereas a Starlink, the marketplace is going to provide. And so you're going to have innovators like Elon Musk providing those solutions. And that's why we need to give more power to the marketplace, less power to the government to decide winners and losers. And that's where this deregulatory environment that the Trump administration is encouraging is going to deliver for Americans, not just in terms of putting more money in their pockets, but also putting more products on the table and in the stores for them to choose from.
So as we move forward, just to put a pin in this whole discussion on the budget, like, do you guys, and I know it's never known until it goes to the floor, but when you guys meet right now, are you 95% there? Are you 98, or are you in the 80s as far as getting people on board on the one bill strategy?
Well, conservatives are individualists, and so we each have our own individual idea of what it should be, whereas the collective of the left marches together like the Borg. So you're going to have a hard time herding cats and actually getting everybody to vote together to pass this budget resolution. But I'm optimistic we're going to get there. We can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We have to move in a direction that cuts spending and returns more power to the people. And that's why I'm hopeful we'll pass it out of committee tomorrow and then on the floor when we come back.
Most of the time, last thing I want to just ask you, though, is most politicians, whether you're at the local level, I mean, city council or all the way up to Congress, right? You come home around election time and say, this is what I got you. I helped with this bridge. We got a new post office. I voted to, cut your taxes, whatever. From a political standpoint, how attractive do you think reducing the size of government and cutting spending is?
Oh, it's very salient. It really does matter to people that they recognize government is too big. They recognize government costs too much and it actually is very inefficient. They recognize the benefits of the private sector and what it can deliver for them. So the idea of successfully reducing the size and scope of the federal government, first of all, it hasn't been done successfully. And so what Trump and Musk are doing with partners in Congress is actually really unheard of in Washington and in our communities back home. So they're applauding it, they're celebrating it, and hopefully, at the end of the day, it is going to be change-inducing for America and restoring what Trump says will be the golden age of America, and we're optimistic that we'll get there.
Well, I hope that's the case. I appreciate, like I said, perfect guest today. I mean, between the Freedom Caucus, you have a legal background, you're on the Appropriations Committee, the Budget Committee, the Judiciary Committee. So we lucked out with you. Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate you joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sean. Great to be with you.
You bet. All right. Thanks for tuning in today. What a great show. Tomorrow, we've got an amazing panel to break down everything that's going on in Washington. We'll talk about Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, getting over the line, plus Victor David Hanson on Friday. So sign up for my newsletter, SeanSpicer.com. It's free. You get a lot of insight. You're always welcome to be a VIP member. We will see you back here tomorrow on the Sean Spicer Show. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.